day 23 of our 30-day challenge. And today is about the power of saying no. In the Bible, it says, let your no be no, let your yes be yes. And I think we all have a challenge of knowing when to say no. And I believe that a lot of growth comes not just from saying yes to opportunities, but being able to recognize when to say no to distraction, no to people, no to meetings, no to certain demands that are not in line with who you are, no to comfort, no to distractions, no to always being available. I used to have a time in life when people would call me and I would drop whatever I'm doing to help or to assist or to answer the phone call. And today in day 23, we have to learn, reflect, meditate on the power of saying no. And I think one of the greatest signs of maturity is learning the discernment to what deserves a no, the phone call that deserves a no. And you know, one of the biggest areas where we need to be saying no to is ourselves. Say no when you're supposed to wake, when you decided you were going to wake up at a certain time, or when you decided you weren't going to eat that food, when you decided you weren't going to make that phone call. Say no when your mind negotiates, when your brain tells you, hey, let's do it. Say no. Because what I've learned is that every meaningful yes, the meaningful ones, every meaningful yes in our lives are protected by the hidden no's. And I'll give you an example. When you are saying yes to spend time with someone you care about, you're actually saying no to other things. You're saying no to work. You're saying no to sleep. When you say yes to get up and pray, you're saying no to sleep. So we have to ask God for guidance in this area. A lot of times we think that saying yes and being available is the godly thing. But even Jesus had boundaries and said no. Many times we are being interrupted because we don't know how to say no. And the problem that many people face is that we say yes on the outside, but deep down inside, we're saying no. We're saying, and we say no subconsciously. Whenever we allow an interruption to happen in our lives, we're doing something, we're making progress, and we allow interruption. Do you know what we're saying no to? We're saying no to peace. Whenever we allow people pleasing, we're saying no to purpose. That distraction, we're saying no to discipline. And when we're saying yes to comfort, prolonged comfort, we're really saying no to our purpose and our calling. And we confuse the word no with rejection, but the word no is really all about direction. It's about I'm going this way, and anything that's not in line with where I'm going, it deserves a no. And the no could be seasonal. The no could be, this is what I'm doing today. And like I said, Jesus demonstrated this consistently. And I remember one of the times where they called Jesus to do something. I think it was Lazarus that died. And Jesus said, no, I'll get there when I get there. I'm paraphrasing. But he didn't rush. He didn't run and drop what he was doing and just go. And we read throughout the Bible where Jesus would withdraw. He walked away from crowds. He said no. He refused what people wanted from him. In one verse, I think it was Mark, after he had healed all these people and they came looking for him. I mean, we assume the loving thing to do would be to just stay and keep meeting people. But Jesus said, let's go somewhere else so I can also preach over there, because that's why I'm here. And I think Jesus understood something that we need to understand. It's very powerful. Need is not the same as assignment. Just because somebody needs something from you does not mean that it's your responsibility or it's your assignment. And saying no is not a sign of rejection. It doesn't mean that you're rejecting that person. It means that you are accepting your responsibility and your direction. And a lot of times we get exhausted because we have all these opportunities that we want to say yes to, and we feel obligated to accept them. And this is not just about rejecting people. I've had opportunities, and I learned that the only opportunity that you should be saying yes to is the right opportunity, because everything else is a distraction. Every good opportunity is preventing you from getting to your right opportunity. And when we start to say yes to every good opportunity, we become distracted. We become pulled in different directions, and we have no boundaries. And a lot of times our inability to say no, it's deeper than just not being able to say no. Sometimes it comes from fear. And there are deeper layers of fear. It could be the fear of missing out. The opportunity comes and we're afraid to miss out, so we say yes. But if you trust God, can you really miss out on anything? It could be the fear of rejection. It could be the fear of disappointing people. Do you rather disappoint people or disappoint God? If God sent you on a mission and a distraction comes and you say yes to that distraction, you're really saying no to God's purpose. It could be fear of being perceived as someone who's selfish. Well, I don't want to say no because then they're going to think, I'm selfish, and then we're going to have problems. I'll lose a relationship. I'm going to tell you, I've lost relationships, yes, but I don't really look at them as a loss. Maybe they've been on a pause, or maybe they served their purpose in that season. But the people who are meant to be in your life, they will understand when you say no. My wife, she knows that I will say yes in every situation, even when I have to make a sacrifice. But if I'm on a mission directly sent from God, there is nothing that I will allow to take me off that course. And everything around me will be a no. And as I said earlier, no is what is going to give power to that yes. Because if you start to say yes at every door that opens, every opportunity, your energy is going to start to leak. It's going to leak everywhere. Even in science, it says that attention flows. Energy flows where attention goes. So attention is a limited resource. And your brain, your body is burning energy every time you have to do something new. Think about it like a computer. Every time you got to make a new decision and you got to switch and you have to say yes to this, now you've gone on to this, it fragments your focus. It takes away your mental bandwidth. And that's why people feel so exhausted, so tired, and they've done nothing because they've done nothing meaningful, because they've spread out their yeses too thin. And this is not about time management. It's not just about time management. This is about identity management. Who are you becoming? What deserves access to your mind, to your energy, to your attention, to your emotions, and to your spirit? In Ecclesiastes, I believe it was Solomon who said there's a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to engage, a time to withdraw, a time to build, a time to rest, a time to speak, a time to keep your mouth shut. And there's a time to say no. Even Jesus said no to temptation. There were shortcuts, comfort, power, all kinds of things promised. But every temptation was an invitation to bypass what was ultimately God's destiny for him. And that no preserved that destiny. And sometimes we destroy our future, not even through sin, but just through being distracted with little unchecked permissions. One unnecessary social media scroll, one little compromise, one little distraction, one toxic relationship that you didn't say no to, one conversation that drains your energy. And our future self It requires ruthless clarity. All things are permitted, but not all things are beneficial. And that's wisdom. Not everything wrong is evil. Some things are just expensive. Some things just cost you more. And some things can be outsourced. So saying no is really all about wisdom. It's about discernment. So day 23 is about reclaiming authority over your attention, reclaiming authority over your day, over your energy, over your focus, and over your assignment. Every single time you say no to something that weakens you, to something that distracts you, to something that takes you off your calling, off your path, you're saying yes to your divine destiny. You're saying yes to your calling. You're saying yes to what strengthens you. And so I'd like to ask you guys on this day 23 to think about a few things. What am I saying yes to today that is costing me peace? It could be the in-law. It could be the wife. It could be the person who constantly knocks at your door. What conversations are consistently taking you away from God's purpose because you keep saying yes? Are there areas in your life that you're overcommitted because of fear of missing out or guilt? Are there boundaries that need to be established that you say no to? And again, boundaries are looked at as a negative thing, but even God had boundaries. God made the land and the sea, the night and the day. We need boundaries. Otherwise, we will just go effortless. We will go without stopping. Boundaries are necessary. What would your future self stop doing? Which meetings would your future self stop taking? Which phone calls would your future self stop entertaining? What distractions are being currently disguised as opportunities? And you're saying yes every single time. I have a moment every morning that I call my deep work moment. And I say no to anything and everything except an emergency. And between those specific hours, I don't care who you are. I will not have a conversation with you because I'm in that moment engaged in my activity that I've destined for that day. And when I started it was very tempting. I would get phone calls, and now I just put my phone on Do Not Disturb for those 2 hours every day. And I focus on my work. And those are the 2 hours, sometimes it's an hour, that I get work done. And it takes courage. It takes fearlessness, because initially I used to be afraid, like, what am I missing out on? I'm missing a call that could come through. But remember, if God has destined something for you, you can't miss it. It'll come back. It may come back later in a greater form, but it will come back. So where do I lack the courage? Where do I need the strength to say no? And let your no be no. Let it be based on what is right, not what is good.